The next morning was the official start of the training of these future mages, but there were no scheduled classes. Instead, everyone woke up to announcements that they should wait in their rooms for the teacher in charge of their group to come inform them of their new routine. That sounded like a much more relaxed class atmosphere than any school he had heard of before, and Karl became a little more jealous of the elite lifestyle. Perhaps he would even get lucky and have a kind and gentle teacher who didn't shout at students for wrong answers, or believe that laps around the school were the cure for inattention. At breakfast, he gathered another roasted chicken for his pet hawk, along with the collection of raw meat, but the beast's consumption had temporarily slowed as the bird had grown overnight. As they grew to maturity, most of them would perfect the knowledge of the rend skill, allowing them to take down much larger prey with a single strike. That might not sound too impressive, given that the full-grown bird only weighed a few kilograms, but when the proficiency reached a high enough level, a monster could actually ambush and kill monsters a rank above its own, using the power of the mastered skill. It was well after noon before the teacher showed up to talk to him, and Karl was getting bored with just standing around in the garden and waiting. He had practiced his rend skill until he wore himself out, trying to improve his accuracy and activation speed, and then had a short nap. But he wasn't really sure where to go from here, and none of the information in the bag of textbooks he had received told him anything on that topic. The sharp knock at the door woke him up, and Karl rushed over to open the door for the sharp-featured female soldier that was waiting outside.
Good afternoon, Karl. I am your combat skills professor. You may call me Sergeant Rita. In addition to teaching you martial arts and essential skills for the elites, I will be your personal guidance professor. The Academy has determined that your class is too different from the other warriors for the standard class schedule to be useful outside the daily battle training courses. So, we will be working together for the time being. Did you have the space here to take lessons, or would you like to move to a classroom?
He had almost gotten his wish. Rita certainly wasn't ugly, but her nature was about as far from kind and gentle as was possible, and laps around the academy didn't seem like they would be outside her list of preferred teaching methods.
There is a spot on the patio that should be suitable. Please, come in, Sergeant.
Sergeant Rita followed him into the unit, then onto the balcony with an intrigued look. But it was not the number of plants that shocked her.
Are these all freshly watered?
She asked.
There was a watering guide included with the room. Most only need it once a week, and I didn't know when they were watered last, so I did it the day that I moved in. They seemed fairly dry, but everything is still in good condition.
Karl replied with a shrug as he walked to the gazebo.
This is a nice unit. Very outdoorsy. I'm not sure if it will rain on the patio with the magic that's in effect, but other than that, you lucked out. Now, I need to know everything that you know about your powers so that we can start a proper training plan. How are the physical improvements? How has the power of your skill adjusted with a single day's practice? And are there any other hints as to what you can do with it? I won't lie to you. The classes that can send a golem or magical construct into battle for them are in much higher demand than any of the others, except the mages who can use unique spells. But with a ranged attack from the start, you're not in a terrible spot.
The sergeant informed him very sincerely. Her honesty startled Karl, and it felt like she genuinely had his best interest in mind as a guidance counselor. Hiding too many things from her wouldn't do him any good, so Karl decided that it would be best to just put everything out in the open for her to understand. Maybe she would know how to help him and Hawk grow. Karl focused and brought out Hawk from his beast-taming space.
We should start here. This is Hawk, and my skill awakened him from an egg in the kitchen. It allows him to live somewhat comfortably in a space inside my mind, and our thoughts are linked.
Sergeant Rita stared at the tiny bird for a few seconds, trying to process the information that she had received.
So, Your ability lets you contract with monsters and, what, use their abilities? Well, I guess that's true. But we both know what the other is thinking, so with a bit of training, I shouldn't have to fight alone. I'll have Hawk with me,
Karl offered. Sergeant Rita smiled.
How about we see if we can't find you another beast cub? If you can get something that's a better fighter than the Windspeed Hawk, you might have a real chance to become one of the more powerful elites.
Hawk squawked in indignation at the suggestion that he would be replaced right after being born.
Does this woman have no shame, looking down on the Windspeed Hawk? Fully grown, I am sure that I can make it to the commander rank, and she's just an ascendant warrior. Give it a month, and I'll bet I could beat her up.
Hawk's mental communication was accompanied by audible screeching when he was outside like this, and the sergeant smirked at the irate fledgling.
What is he saying?
She asked.
He says that when he grows up, he will be a commander, and you'll still be ascendant.
Karl gave her the abridged version.
So, it really is intelligent enough for coherent thought at that stage. Interesting. I know it's the first day, but we should go to the training grounds to see what you two can do when working together,
the sergeant remarked. Sergeant Rita led Karl down to the main floor and out across the grounds to a large open coliseum.
This will be our venue for the day. You'll love it, at least when it's empty. With nobody here, you can send your hawk as far out as you want, and we can spar with the training gear. Call out your bird, you two can make the first move,
Sergeant Rita suggested as they walked to the middle of the battlefield.
Hawk, fly up high and attack from the side. She will be expecting you to go behind her,
Karl instructed as he checked his gauntlets and drew his sword. As soon as he released it from the mental space, the hawk flew up 50 meters in the air and began to circle, waiting for its master to be ready.
Go,
Karl instructed as he slashed forward with the blade, activating Rend halfway through to create a small arc of power that Rita blocked with ease using one of the two daggers that had appeared in her hands. Then she dodged to the side as the attack from Hawk streaked towards her, and parried again as a flick of Karl's fingers sent more rending energy her way. He had no actual combat experience, but a sword was bigger than a dagger, so he sidestepped and swung his blade, which she easily parried. But while she was distracted, Hawk's next attack hit her in the back of the neck, leaving a bright red welt.
What do we do? Her neck doesn't break when I attack it,
Hawk asked in a panic.
Just keep attacking. She's stronger than us, but she is going to teach us how to fight.
Rita turned to keep them both in her line of sight as the bird continued to circle overhead, then launched a flurry of attacks that knocked Karl to the ground, just in time for her to block Hawk's attacks.
All right, I know where your weaknesses are now. The first thing that we need to train is your fighting skills. While the bird is equivalent to a repeated sneak attack, low output but incredibly difficult to dodge, you will have to face the wrath of your enemies until you can find a second pet or a group mate to take their attention.
That made a lot of sense. In a way, he was still a warrior class, just a pet warrior who could fight alongside a magical beast. Learning an entire combat system wasn't going to be easy, but at this point, his life literally depended on it after graduation. Even most of the music and television celebrities among the elite were known to go and fight to improve their strength or deal with attacks. They just did it with assistants and cameras following, so the world would know how awesome they were. Not like some bureaucrat or lawyer who got sent to an attack that didn't even make the news to fight alone against a rampaging monster.
All right, what do we start with? Sword fighting? Martial arts? Some sort of secret magical body training art?
He asked. Sergeant Rita laughed.
First, we start with basic physical conditioning. Your body is adjusting quickly to the mana injection, and it triggers an awakening in place of your natural growth. That's why we give the shots at the end of middle school, so that all the recipients are still in the rapid growth phase and can adapt more easily to the changes. As your body adjusts, you should be able to move from a common physique to an awakened physique fairly quickly. And then you will be able to actually fight at an acceptable pace, closer in speed to the movements of your hawk.
Karl sighed. He knew it. There was definitely going to be laps around the academy.
Follow me to the gym. There will be a bunch of agility-type fighters there now, so your standards should be suitable for the equipment that is out. I will lead you through a basic routine today, and then we will set your baseline for improvement. Within the next month, I expect that you will be able to make the minimum awakened standard, but you have until the end of the semester before the official tests are done.
So, most students take that long to make it to the awakened stage? Karl asked. That didn't sound so bad.
No, many of them will make the minimum standard within the next few weeks. The true geniuses will be getting close to ascended by the end of the first semester, and make it there either late in the year or at the beginning of the second year.
Just like that, Karl's dreams of easy days as an elite were crushed. When Sergeant Rita and Karl got to the gym, she issued Karl a workout uniform consisting of sneakers, shorts, and a shirt in the academy's white and gold color scheme, and sent him to the locker rooms to shower and change. That was their policy: shower before and after using the equipment. It didn't take long to get ready, but Sergeant Rita was already there, changed into a black tank top and a different pair of green cargo pants with clean boots. Did they think that she might be mistaken as a student if she didn't wear green? Or perhaps it was a military rule. Karl had heard that the elite soldiers weren't officially military, but their own branch of the government. However, they didn't come to the mines. There was no reason for them to be there, so he had never actually seen one before the injection day. The agility-type warriors, as Sergeant Rita called this class, turned out to be almost entirely female. That made Karl wonder deeply about what sort of bias the mana injection had for the skills that it awakened in people, or what that said about his current physique. He might not be the most macho man ever, but being told that you currently have the physique of a 14-year-old girl was hard on the ego. Then he looked through the glass wall and saw the strength-type warriors from the senior class's training, and the class was full of muscle-bound meatheads with arms the size of his torso. Maybe he was in the right place.
All right, first up, upper body strength. That skill of yours puts a lot of resistance on your body, and you need to be able to power through it, but without building up so much bulk that you can't evade anymore, Rita began. By the time that Karl limped back to the showers, he was sweaty, exhausted, and ready to fall asleep right where he was. He was about to collapse when Hawk pushed a piece of cold roast chicken out of the space for him to eat as a form of emergency energy, or a survival ration, Windspeed Hawk style. A very deeply missed survival ration, even though the bird still had a quarter of a roast chicken and plenty of raw meat left. Once he was changed, Karl made his way back to the dorms for the afternoon and straight to the cafeteria for some much-needed sugar and caffeine. If this was going to be the daily routine, he was going to have to start eating much heavier meals than usual. Somehow, despite feeling like death, he still managed to look like he was in better shape than the next few groups to arrive. They were holding each other upright and mostly bruised, cut, scorched, or dripping with some sort of mystery liquid. "What happened to you?" Karl asked the mage sitting at the next table, startling him so much he almost fell out of his chair. "Skills training. All day long, the magic classes undergo skills and theory training. I have one spell, Lightning Bolt, and they had me drink supplements over and over to cast it 30 times today until it stopped hitting me and everyone around me." "What about you?" The other mage at the table, a girl with charred sections on her uniform, asked. "I had a combat class with the instructor, then 2 hours of fitness routine with the agility-type fighters. I think my legs have started to turn into pudding already." Karl sighed. 2-hour fitness routine? What did you do to the instructor to deserve that? Even the newbie warriors only get a 30-minute intensive weight training session and a 30-minute cardio session along with their weapons training.
The girl asked.
No idea. I think that she's got high hopes for me, though, because she's already talking about forging me into an awakened body this month. We need to get our mana levels up to awakened levels before the end of semester exams, but that's way harder than it sounds. And we need to meditate whenever we're off, but you can't do it when you can't focus, and we're all too sore today. Well, almost all of us. I think that she might be fine,
gesturing toward a woman covered in slime at the next table. Slime girl?
Don't let it fool you. She's a water mage, and her first spell is Refreshing Water Slime. It helps her recover stamina and mana, so she's been wearing it like that all day.
That was almost a cheat ability. From what these two said, the mages trained their aptitude by maintaining and controlling their spells, and hers refreshed her stamina and magic while she wore it, so she could do it all the time without getting exhausted. She would almost certainly grow quickly. That was the sort of luck that a true protagonist should have, Karl decided.
Slime! You can't even eat them. They just squish.
Hawk had a point. Not only was he an excellent combat assistant, he was also edible. The students slowly made their way to their rooms, and Karl let Hawk sleep off his overindulgence while he lay in bed, too tired to sleep, but too sore to do anything else. He wasn't sure when that changed to blissful slumber, but he was very aware of his alarm going off the next morning, alerting him that he had 15 minutes before Sergeant Rita arrived. Karl took a quick shower and changed into his uniform before the sergeant was at his door, impatiently knocking and holding a breakfast tray in her other hand.
You're running late, so I brought food. Let's go to the gazebo so you can eat while you study,
she instructed. Once they sat down, Sergeant Rita took out a small stone and set it on the table.
What do you think of this?
She asked. Karl looked it over. It wasn't an egg. It was just a rock of some sort. He even poked it, first with the handle of his spoon, and then with his finger. No response.
It's definitely a rock, he replied. Interesting. So the psychic stone has no response to you, but you can communicate with your bird,
Rita noted.
Now try this one.
Again, Karl put his hand on the stone, tried to make it do something, but it was just a rock. Then another and another. But when she put a small golden coin on the table, an ancient monetary instrument from the Golden Dragon country they lived in, Karl immediately felt an affinity for the object, and when he touched the dragon on the coin, a sense of power filled him.
So that's the answer. That coin was blessed at the Dragon God statue during the last Dragon Festival. It appears that your powers resonate with the dragon energy. Since that's the case, I want to try something else.
Rita took out a small vial filled with shimmering red liquid.
Oh, I want it. Ask the evil lady to give me that,
Hawk demanded.
You should be glad that she can't hear you.
Karl thought back to his companion. Karl obviously couldn't tell Rita what exactly the hawk was saying, so he rephrased it into something nicer.
Sergeant Rita, Hawk thinks that it will be useful to him if he can have it. What is it? It's mana-infused monster blood. It's the most basic of common-grade resources for physical cultivation-type elites. Drinking mana-infused monster blood strengthens the body and can induce mutations. Without a proper method to handle and guide the process, it is often fatal. But for a monster or magical beast, it should be perfectly fine, she explained, with amusement sparkling in her eyes. For a moment there, she almost seemed like a happy young woman. But then her serious face was back as she gestured toward the table. Call him out so that I can see the process. If it works, the Academy will get you more resources for the bird until it can grow into a proper combat unit. According to this morning's briefing, leadership feels that trying to turn you into a frontline fighter with just one rending attack is pointless. And the senior professors think that we might have more luck training Windspeed Hawk, with you as its backup and leader in a support or scouting role, she explained. Karl sighed. Day 2, and I've already been sidelined? Rita gave an honest laugh at his disappointment. All the mages are being cultivated in this direction as well. It is a measure to reduce casualties. The more people that we can have fighting behind golems, summons, barriers, and in your case, monsters, the better we can resist the magical beasts. And the more success we will have against the armies of the other nations. They know that we have the advantage, and this relative peace won't last for much longer. If you don't want to be cannon fodder, you need to act quickly to gain strength. So, strengthen the bird, and when you feel that you are strong enough to take on another pet, let me know, and the Academy will find something suitable for you. That was a sharp change from yesterday's regimen of focusing on building his physical strength as fast as possible. But if they didn't know any more about his powers than he did, there wasn't actually much they could teach him, other than methods that had worked for others with different powers. But Hawk was already out on the table and happily lapping up the mana-infused monster blood while radiating an amount of power that was far beyond what anyone would expect of a common-grade beast. After a few seconds, the effect seemed to fade, but the former swallow-sized Hawk was now much larger, and while it was still a common-grade monster, it was getting much closer to fully grown and awakened level power. Then, something truly strange happened. Karl felt energy flowing from Hawk to him, clearing his mind, sharpening his eyesight, and leaving his muscles feeling fresh and strong. He had no way of subtly testing it, but Karl was almost completely certain that his physical strength had suddenly increased as Hawk grew. Most of the people he had seen these last few days were changing rapidly after the mana injection, so it might just be that. But the fact that it happened so suddenly after Hawk was given the monster blood seemed incredibly suspicious. Karl cleared his throat and looked at the empty vial on the table. So, I resonate with dragon energy, and Hawk likes monster blood. That second part isn't exactly a surprise for a Hawk, but do you think that there is a known technique that will let us grow stronger more quickly? Well, we are limited in dragon-type energy. There just isn't a lot of it floating around, but there might be another way. Carnivorous magical beasts grow stronger by killing and eating, absorbing the life force of other beasts. I think that moving the two of you to the practical courses as soon as you can finish basic skills and survival lessons would be for the best. We can't just send you out to the academy without getting you trained enough to defend yourself. The public would riot if they found out that one of the elite had died during training. The mana injections are great for us. We get the superpowers of all sorts, but to the average people, they are a promise of a safer future, without the nightmares of impending monster invasions or being left helpless during a war. Karl rolled his eyes as she got into the official propaganda. While she wasn't exactly wrong, most of the students here would never fight in any war. Half of them would never develop a skill that was actually useful during a war. No matter how cool a sword skill was, artillery still existed. Unless your sword could deal with an airstrike, it was not suitable for use during a real war. But some of them really could deal with artillery, using sword techniques. The mages were a different story. But also, if his beast got powerful enough, or he managed to bond with a particularly powerful monster, he could also become a deadly fighting force. He was already headed down that last road with Rend, and if he could get it past the awakened level of the power scale,
and into the ascended levels, there was no reason that he couldn't tear through an armored vehicle on his own.
But for now, that's mostly hypothetical. We're not at war with anyone, and the magical beasts are being held at bay throughout the Golden Dragon country.
Karl replied.
For now, just trust me, Karl. You want to get in as much combat training as you can, and I will apply for improved resources for Hawk. I know that birds are usually fine with whatever sort of meat you feed them. But if we want to force it to grow faster, it will take a detailed plan, Rita informed him.
Karl thought about that. A Windspeed Hawk was full-grown at 4 months old, but at that point, they were only low-awakened level beasts with a common grade physique. It would take time in hunting stronger beasts if they wanted to grow past that strength level. Without some sort of reference or plan, he could be stuck at a very low level in his second year. After discussing the growth plan with Karl, Rita started to take textbooks out of her bag, but a very different set of books than the ones Karl had been issued his first day here. These were all about magical beasts, their diets, traits, abilities, and other factors that might be relevant to Hawk.
I will leave these for you and come back tomorrow morning. What I want you to do today is come up with a care and feeding guide for the bird and justify it with the information from the books. If it's good and it follows the information that we have in a logical way, I think that I can get you some more resources. At the very least, I can get some more of the mana-infused monster blood. We stock quite a bit of that for the warriors and other classes who need an instant physical power boost, she informed Karl with a smile. Rita left Karl alone with a stack of books on monster data, which were all written from the perspective of a hunter. At best, they noted what the beast's usual diet was and where it could be found. But that was much different than a guide to help him properly raise them, much less one to raise them faster than usual to compete against wild beasts and magic users.
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.